Yes. Hey everyone, it's Brian here from Massey's Main Entertainment, and we've been gone for just a few weeks here. We all took a little bit of time off to kind of re-energize ourselves and get ready for what I feel like is a very special series. In honor of March Madness this month, we put together an NCAA style bracket of 64 of the best albums of the 1970s, and our job is to decide which album truly is the champion of the 1970s. So joining me today are some faces you guys will recognize from various projects over the last few months. I'm joined by Doc, representing our neighbors to the north. Also, Sam St. John, kind of new to us here. He does some stuff with Rich on his channel. He's our acoustical friend from the Appalachians. And Randy, the traveling troubadour of the Midwest. He just got back from a nice long trip overseas. And finally, Rich Strickler, from the city of brotherly love area, who most recently celebrated his birthday without giving away his age. I'll just say that he violated multiple fire codes. Just kind of leave it at that. I'll be putting the links for the YouTube channels for everyone down below, except for Doc. Doc, I decided just to put your OnlyFans page available.
That works.
I figured a lot of girls have been asking about you, and I didn't want to tell them that you were going to give it away for free. So.
Nothing's free.
So this is how it's going to break down. We're currently in the opening round of 64. In this video, we'll be covering the West and Midwest brackets. I will introduce each matchup and do a slight plug for each. Let everyone chime in on the matchup briefly with any notes, and then they can simply vote. There are 5 of us, so 3 votes moves it on. 3 or more votes will obviously move it on. So we'll rotate who votes last in each matchup, giving some extra power to each of our members in some cases, and maybe a little bit of extra pressure as well. I encourage anyone who voted in the minority to chime in at the end with some last-minute thoughts about why they chose the album that they did. Lastly, I want to say, please keep in mind that we obviously could not get every album that all of you maybe would like. When I initially started this, I wanted as much variety of styles and genres as possible, while keeping with what was truly popular and also what was truly commercially successful weighed a little bit as well. So for instance, I don't have all the Eagles albums obviously in the mix, but I certainly just can't omit them all together. So in some instances, I simply picked the band's most noted album. So everybody keep in mind, this is really just for fun. So gentlemen, anything you guys like to add before we kind of get rolling here?
I guess I could jump in and say it was this is going to be crazy. There's 64 great albums that are going to go through on this list, and we'll all have different opinions and different ideas as we move. And probably at the end of the whole thing, this is my guess, is we might not all be friends at the end of this thing, man.
That might be true.
My take. So
that might be
it's a big undertaking, man. It's a big undertaking.
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah. It's a lot of music. Frankly, some of these albums I've never even given a full listen to. Again, just not having the time. Some of them are out of my wheelhouse, but some of the ones that they're paired up against, are strong contenders. I have some underdogs. I have some cliches. So I'm excited to see what you boys go with.
Excellent. Randy, Rich.
Yeah. Oh,
go ahead, Randy.
Well, it seems like on several of these, it's like my favorite album by an artist against another favorite album by an artist. So it is pretty difficult sometimes here.
Happens when you only got 64.
I agree. The competition will be fierce, especially as we get into the rounds down the line. This is going to weed out some stuff. A lot of big albums are going to bite the dust here. So batten down the hatches, bring on the shade, all that juicy stuff. So we can't wait to address the comments and the banter and the disagreements later on. So it'll be a fun project. I'm glad I was invited to join. So let's do it, man.
All right. Let's get started here. So leading off, I'll be leading it off. I just kept us in alphabetical order as far as the people who actually get the vote at the end and maybe be a deciding vote. So we went alphabetical, just try to keep it as random as possible. And so we'll get started. We're going to go right off with the 116 matchup coming out of the West. First, it's the number 1 seed overall as well. Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon, maybe the most popular and most prolific concept album of all time. Spent an oodles amount of time on the Billboard chart, like forever and a day. and it's going up against the number 16 seed, which is the self-titled debut album from the hit machine Paul Rodgers and his band Bad Company. So since I'm starting it off, I'm going to tell you guys this as a number 1 overall seed. There's not too many 16s that overtake a 1, and this is going to be no different. I've got Pink Floyd Dark Side of the Moon cruising right through this one, so they got my vote off the bat here. So Doc, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, listen, this Bad Company debut album is a smoking album, man. This is a really good album.
Yeah.
I guess I just feel bad that it lands on, you know, what I consider something special out of the 70s. I would put it as the Dark Side of the Moon. Yeah, I got Dark Side winning this one up against Bad Company's debut. As much as I like a lot of really good tunes on this album, man, I'm going Dark Side.
Okay, that's 2 for 2 so far. Okay, Randy, what do you think?
Yeah, that's kind of, for me, it was a real 1 versus 16 matchup. Even though I love Paul Rodgers' voice, this wasn't good enough to overtake Dark Side.
Okay, so Dark Side. Okay, Rich.
I have to side with Dark Side. It deserves all the respect that everybody's giving it. I love Bad Company's first 2 albums. This debut is fantastic, but it's losing this time out. It's probably getting blown out by, in a basketball term, by halftime. So they're done.
Yeah, playing the scrubs, right?
Yep.
Sam, what did you think? You get to have a say here, bud.
Well, for voting on best beard, Paul Rodgers wins against anybody in Pink Floyd. But I mean, no, Dark Side, no question. I know Rich and I did a video on it last year, ranking everything, and it's yeah, it's a easy pick.
That's a no-brainer. So
a sweep.
Wow, sweep. Score 5-0. Dark Side is moving on. You know, I do really like that bad. I own it. The Bad Company album. I do really enjoy it, particularly the track Seagull, which is an unsung track on there. It's too bad they're matched up against Dark Side, but somebody had to be. So let's move on down to the 8-9 matchup. Going right down the list. Number 8 seed, kind of a punk rock classic here. You got the Ramones. They're getting a little bit muddy though, because they're going up against the number 9 seed, a Swamp Rock Masters Creedence Clearwater Revival, and their masterpiece, Cosmos Factory. So this is truly an 8 versus 9. Sam, you get the first word on this one, my friend.
Well, I'm probably going to go the direction that people don't expect that know me. I'm going to go with the Ramones on this one. I really like that debut. Those first 4 or 5 Ramones albums to me are they're just killer. I mean, again, they fit in 15 or 16 songs in under 30 minutes, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I really like that album. Individually, the tracks on Cosmos are probably better. I would say they're better because, you know, Long as I Can See the Light, Who'll Stop the Rain, 2 of my favorite CCR songs. Right. But as a playing album, I think Ramones flows just a bit better for me. So I'm going Ramones number 8.
Wow. All right, I go second here. Yeah, this is a tough one for me because I do like the Ramones album, but I actually like their Rocket to Russia a little bit better than this one. So for me, I feel like I'm going with the longevity thing. I'm going to go with Cosmos Factory. I think I did something with Rich with Cosmos Factory, and we've done top 10 stuff together as well. This is just a stellar album, and it's hard to overlook it for me. So I'm going to go with Creedence on this one. Doc?
Yeah, it's like I said, man, 64 albums here. This is going to be fun. So yeah, everything that Sam said about the Ramones album, yeah, it's a changer in a lot of senses in music, right? So it's the Ramones. It's here we go with something a little different than everything else, and it's a sound that's unique. It's theirs. But that Cosmos Factory album, man, is just that's a hit machine, man. Up Around the Bend, Looking at My Back Door, Run Through the Jungle, Traveling Band. It's just too much for me to overlook as like this could have been a greatest hits album for crying out loud, man. This is Cosmos. Ramones is an awesome album, man. Cosmos is just something a little bit more special to me. So I got Cosmos here.
You got Cosmos. All right. Randy, what do you think?
Yeah, the Ramones album is important on this side of the pond as far as the punk movement goes, but Cosmos Factory, I think every song on that album got played on the radio, and it's hard to overlook, and I'm gonna pick Cosmos Factory.
All right, there we go. Rich, what do you think? I mean, it's already decided, but I kind of think I know what you want, but you never know.
I'm going to pile on too. I'm going to go with Cosmos Factory. I can't ignore that time period for Creedence. They were on top of the world. They were the biggest U.S. band at that time, and cranking out hits and airplay and sales and concert tickets. They had a short run, but I love that album. No disrespect to the Ramones, but punk's never been my thing. So there you go.
All right. So in this case, it's a small upset, but the 9 moves on to the next round. Let's slide down here and go down to the 4 versus 13 matchup. Here it's a little bit more diverse, I think. A very tough matchup in my opinion. The jazz fusion rock classic from Steely Dan, Aja, with the number 4 seed, an album that I was just introduced thanks to Rich here, and I think is an absolute great album. And they're going up against the first in a long run of great albums actually, from Stevie Wonder, who just simply owned the early 70s, and particularly at the Grammys. His album Inner Vision, which is actually sitting at the number 13, very strong number 13 seed. Rich, you get the first word on this one, bud.
Yeah, that might be the strongest 13 I've ever seen in my life. Dead serious. I mean, Stevie Wonder could do no wrong in the early to mid 70s, even the whole decade, really. Right. But I love Steely Dan. I know I could be in the majority here, and I think Asia is their best album, along with the debut and the Royal Scam. I just like Deacon Blues and Black Cow, and the list goes on off that album. I think it flows nicely with that jazz fusion, and the musicianship is first rate. So I have to go with Steely Dan on this one.
Excellent. Okay, Sam?
Well, I am not a big. I love jazz. I do. I love like the Miles Davis funky kind of stuff. I love like on the corner stuff.
Excellent.
Like weird stuff. But it was hard for me not to pass over Stevie. I got to see Stevie live in 2016, and he did the song "Higher Ground." And I mean, that's just like a funk classic. I even like the Chili Peppers version of it. But yeah, I mean, like I just think in general, just like that style, that era of Stevie, that it just works. So I'm going with Inner Visions.
Okay. All right. Like it. What about I guess it's me now. Boy, this is okay. Tough one. I own that big run of Stevie albums that was running through the 70s, and I still remember Bob Dylan thanking him at the Grammys in like 1975 for not releasing an album so that he could actually have an opportunity to win for once. I always thought that was good. But for me, I guess being able just to sit back and listen and enjoy Aja just sounds so good, and it's so well produced. And with my growing appreciation for that, from an audio standpoint, I have to go with Aja on this one. I'm going to have to go with Steely Dan. So, Doc.
Yeah, I think Rich, you called it, man. Like this is like it was a 13 versus whatever. This is Innervisions here from Stevie showing up here is a tough one. No, Aja's a fantastic album, man. Deacon Blues and Home at Last, Josie. There's a lot of good stuff on here. And it is that silky smooth sound of Steely Dan at this time, man. It's got that jazzy, great vibe. Love it. There's something about Stevie, man, and I can't get away from that synth orchestra kind of sounding that he's got, especially at this time. And it's I think you put it right earlier, Brian. He kind of owns a certain era in a certain spot in music, and I think this is really the sweet spot for him. Higher Ground, Living for the City, and stuff like that. Man, it's too much for me to pass over. Inner Vision is where it's going to go for me, man.
All right, so we're sitting there, and Randy's holding all the cards here. Randy, no pressure.
I remember hearing "Living for the City" when it came out, and was just amazed with that song. And then I think of Steely Dan, how sometimes they get downgraded for being like too perfect or sound too well. But Larry Carlton on guitar on a couple of those songs is just amazing. And I'm going to have to go with Asia.
Wow.
The Steely Dan.
Wow.
I didn't see it coming.
Even though I'm a big R&B guy.
I know.
Wow.
I did not see that coming.
This is when Doc starts making his list of people he's not a fan of.
The hit list.
So Sam, give us a little bit more about why you felt really kind of strongly about that Inner Visions.
Again, like I'm kind of with that group of like the overproduced style. I mean, again, Steely Dan, I love Fagan. I think Fagan has a great voice. And my mom is a big Steely Dan fan. She gave me a greatest hits when I was younger. So like I had all the Steely Dan hits. But there is something about that early Stevie that I just love. I mean, Stevie was playing, you know, all the instruments. He was combining so much stuff. He was combining the Motown sound with the funk and, you know, with rock and gospel. And to me, like that just hits all my nerves exactly where I want them. Because if I hear one Stevie song where I'm thinking, that's a little bit too, you know, Motown-y for me, and then all of a sudden he hits me with something that's, you know, with gospel. I'm like, ooh, that was good. And then he hits me with a rockin' song. I'm like, yeah, I've got to go with Mr. Wonder. So,
okay. All right. Well, it was a tough matchup. I mean, and it's a lot closer than I thought it was going to be for 413. So that's great. Steely Dan moves on. Tough luck, Stevie, but I'm sure we're going to see you down the road here. Ending the top half of this West bracket, this is another tough matchup. I mean, basically from contrasting styles. I've got number 5 seed. I've got Tapestry here, an album that Doc and I and Rich, I think we all talked about on one of my videos. The beautiful record from Carole King, and she takes on the hard rockers from down under, AC/DC. They're holding the number 12 seed with Highway to Hell. So, Randy, you're going to get the first shot at this one, bud. What do you think?
Well, this is tough for me. I'm not a huge metal or hard rock guy, but I do appreciate, you know, the title track, and this is the last album with Bon Scott. But Carole King never accomplished what she did with this Tapestry album any other time in her career, but it's just chock so full of hits. Like I Feel the Earth Move, It's Too Late, So Far Away, You've Got a Friend. I just got to go with Tapestry, who was up there at one time for being the longest on the charts. Yeah, I don't know if that record was broken. Probably has been. But.
Rich, what do you think?
Yeah, I like Highway to Hell. I think it's their best album, AC/DC, but it's not my vibe completely. So I have to go with Tapestry. Carole King, this is her apex, and for all the reasons Randy just described. So I'm going to go with Carole and Tapestry.
Okay, so that's two for Carole's masterpiece. Sam, what do you think?
Again, that's something else that people don't know a lot about me, is that I do really enjoy AC/DC. I love both eras. I love the Bon Scott era, like on this one. And I mean, what a finale to Bon Scott's career with AC/DC. And then, I mean, I love Brian Johnson too. But going down the line, like, what am I pulling from my collection? I'm gonna reach for Tapestry. It's right in my alley. The 70s singer-songwriter, acoustic with the piano. I mean, So Far Away, Beautiful is a great song. It's not one that's played as much on the radio, but Natural Woman, her version just hits a little bit differently, knowing that she's the songwriter. So I have to go with Carole King.
All right. Moseying along there. Three already for Carole. It comes to me here. This one is a little bit difficult for me because obviously I was aware of and listened to Highway to Hell when I was young, obviously. And when I was young, I tried Tapestry as well. And obviously when you're a 17-year-old kid in the 80s, you're not spinning Carole King. I mean, it just wasn't one of those things. But I did revisit the album, and I actually gave it a really good score for that second time to listen when I'm a much older person. And Randy's right; it's just chock full of hits. It's got such a good vibe and good feel throughout the album. Good sound. Her quality of her voice is great. As much as I like some of the songs on Highway to Hell, I do thoroughly enjoy them as a young, memories of a young man. I got to go with Tapestry on this one as well. So, sorry, Doc. What do you think about your vote? Give me your vote here. Give me your reason.
Well, with the apologies before I even give my vote, I guess you get an idea where I'm going to go with this one, though. So, Yeah, I listen. I would agree with everything you guys have said about Tapestry. I think obviously it's a great, easy listening singer-songwriter's album. It's chock full of good vibes and everything else throughout. I'm not throwing shade on this one, man, but Highway to Hell is a monster of a rock and roll album to me, man. The bluesy undertones of AC/DC shining through. This is Mutt Lange written all over it, and this one he takes over as producing. I'm a big AC/DC guy, man, and this is my favorite album by far of theirs. And I don't think there's a bad song on this one. And you want a rock blues solo, obviously great lines, great bass lines, great drums, and Bon at his best, man. His voice is really clear here. And Mutt even does some backup singing on some of this stuff too. So to me, when I'm reaching for it, man, I'm reaching for Highway to Hell. So that's just the way it is.
Yeah,
I'm on that alone, but I figured I probably might be on this one.
Yeah, in another section of the bracket, it could have been a different story. I know it was a really tough matchup, and when I went back and looked at it, Doc. So, but you stuck to your guns. You stuck to your guns.
Freaking right.
The people that you love, right? So, all right, let's move on to the bottom half of the bracket here. We're going to start off with the 314. So you're looking at Rolling Stone's top album of the year from 2020. That's kind of moved again. I think they've released even a newer list now with the 10 additional albums added on, kind of shifted things around a bit. So the number 3 seed is going to be Marvin Gaye's What's Going On versus an early metal masterpiece from Deep Purple. Their monstrous Machine Head will be holding on to the number 14 spot. Doc, you get the first word here, buddy.
Look at that. I mean, here you go with Deep Purple, you know, should we say one of the pioneers of basically heavy metal, or where this is going to go in life. 71, I think, for Machine Head.
Yeah.
You know, Smoke on the Water, Here It Comes High, you know, Highway Star, Lazy. You know, the organ and everything else that they've got with Deep Purple. There's a sound here. You can pick whoever you want coming out. Zeppelin, Sabbath, and Deep Purple. Those guys are really the trifecta of what heavy metal is here in the early 70s and late 60s, early 70s as it goes. What's going on? Marvin Gaye's masterpiece, man. You know, the title track and you know, What's Happening, Brother, and this album on the other side, What's Going On, going up against Machine Head is not fair in one sense. Machine Head's awesome.
Yeah.
What's Going On is just a different neighborhood, man. Not to say that it's not. I'd probably put Machine Head on before I put What's Going On, but as an album, What's Going On is there's a lot of undertones to it. There's a lot of different things to it, and it has a lot of meaning to it. You know, be it political or segregation or anything else you want to get into on what it's talking about. But it's Marvin Gaye. It's his voice, and this is one of the smoothest albums you'll ever listen to, man. What's Going On is that's where I'm going, man. As much as I'm a Deep Purple dude, man, this album's just in the wrong neighborhood at the wrong time right now.
Right. Okay. So What's Going On's got one. Randy?
Yeah, this was a tough one because, you know, Machine Head has, of course, the Smoke on the Water, which one of the most famous riffs ever in rock. But What's Going On was just the ultimate classic. I'm a big soul and R&B guy. I just got to stay with Marvin on this one, and I'm going to take What's Going On.
Okay. Rich, what do you think?
Yeah, the same for me. I like Machine Head, although again it's a little heavy for me, but there's no denying how excellent it is all the way through. It's a great album, but I have to go with What's Going On, especially it's a concept album at the 1971, and you got all these topics that he's hitting on that are, you know, in the public's consciousness at that time, the Vietnam War and drugs and the inner city and the, like Doc said, the segregation, the poverty, the ecology, everything's hit on. Title track is an all-time classic song. And, you know, you got other songs like Mercy, Mercy Me and the Inner City Blues, and it goes on and on. It's one that you really want to listen to in the context of the album. And it's so strong that I can't go against it in this round. Maybe down the line, we'll see what the matchup is. But going against Machine Head, it's an easy pick for me.
Okay. All right. So, Sam, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to go the same route. I think What's Going On, when I first heard it, was one of the first albums that I remember hearing that essentially flowed all together, other than, you know, like a long classical piece. Even maybe before listening to like the second side of Abbey Road by the Beatles, I think hearing this album and like how not sure where one track started or one ended, but yeah, I mean, what a closure with Inner City Blues. Mercy Mercy Me is fantastic. What's Happening Brothers fantastic. I Save the Children.
Yep.
He's almost crying in that song. So yeah, I mean, I've got to go with What's Going On. It struck me. It's one of those few albums I remember the first time I heard it and just being blown away. So I've got to go with Marvin Gaye.
All right, so I get the final say here and final vote. Not that it means very much anyway in this point, but yeah, it's the same thing here. I do like Machine Head. I own it. It's really great. It would be one of my top 10 metal albums of all time. But you're going up against Marvin Gaye and What's Going On. It's just a series of unfortunate events for you that puts you where you're at. That being said, I would never want to hear Smoke on the Water again being played by an amateur musician. I've heard that enough. People just when they first learning the guitar, trying to learn that riff, it's no sense for that. So sticking with Marvin Gaye, it's a clean sweep for him. So we'll move on. Keeping with the metal mantra, we're going to have a Black Sabbath's Paranoid album landing at the number 6 seed. So Ozzy and the boys got a matchup against maybe the most notable Southern rock band of all time, Lynyrd Skynyrd. They hold the number 11 seed with pronounced Lynyrd Skynyrd. Doc, you must really love this matchup. I do get the first say here. This one was really tough for me. I'm not a hater of Lynyrd Skynyrd. I mean, I do own that album. But obviously, there's songs of theirs we've made jokes about where we wanted to make a list of their top 10 songs. We've made rules that it couldn't have Sweet Home Alabama and Freebird on the list, which would have been fine by me. So I only can take them in very small increments, and Black Sabbath's Paranoid album is just too good. It's just way too good. So I'm going to take Sabbath here with my pick. So Doc, what do you think?
Yeah, this is the one that this was a huge struggle for me. This one, to your point, the Lynyrd Skynyrd album is and here we go. This is debut album, right? So this is a monster, man, in a lot of senses. Yeah, it's got Freebird on it, but Simple Man, Tuesday's Gone, I Ain't the One, Poison Whiskey, and Give me three steps. Yeah, that's right. Listen, it's chock full of tunes. The Sabbath is coming out with that monster, War Pig starting off, and just the sound of that when it starts off, and it just creeps right into it. You get, the Paranoid, the title track, I just love that tune, man. That tune just rocked.
Right.
And Iron Man's on this too, and Ozzy's the sound. So in the end, to everybody's shock, I am going with Lynyrd Skynyrd to take this one.
Wow.
I'm shocked.
Okay. All right. So, Randy.
Well, I'm not, like I've said before, I'm not a huge heavy metal guy, and I'm not a huge Southern rock guy either, but I know the Lynyrd Skynyrd album a lot better. I love Give Me Three Steps and Simple Man and some of the other songs on there. Freebird did get overplayed, that every bar band had to learn Freebird, but I'm going to go with Lynyrd Skynyrd too.
Oh, wow. Excellent. All right. So it's 2-1 in favor of Lynyrd. Rich, what do you think?
Well, I'm going to put Paranoid out of its misery and go with Lynyrd Skynyrd.
Wow.
This debut album is killer. Anybody that dismisses it and thinks it's just Freebird, they're not giving it a fair shake. I mean, there's songs on side one. I Ain't the One's a great opener. If you don't know.
Great tune.
Yeah.
Great opener. And then it flows into Tuesday's Gone, Give Me Three Steps. Simple Man's my favorite Skynyrd song, period, off any album. So I have to go with Lynyrd Skynyrd to be true to myself.
Okay.
And that's where I'm going.
Okay. Sam? What do you think?
Well, again, I am from Southwest Virginia. I've been here my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of guys that drive around with flags on the back of their trucks, and there have been many a group of high schoolers that are camping out in the woods drinking beer, listening to songs like Freebird and Tuesday's Gone and Simple Man. It's all over the area. It's everywhere. And I mean, Southern rock as a rule is all over this area. But with that said, I'm going to go with Black Sabbath. First of all, Lynyrd Skynyrd has never done it for me. I give them, I mean, I think Ronnie Van Zant's a killer singer. Rosington's fantastic. You know, all those guys are top-notch musicians. They were, you know, Tom Petty opened for him, Mudcrutch opened for him in Florida back in the early 70s. They were all kind of from the Panhandle area of Florida. And I get it. I get why they're loved and adored, but I would much rather listen to Paranoid. I love the title track. Again, War Pigs, I mean, good grief, what an opener. Just that, you know, heaviness to it. The kind of the up tempo of the drums from Bill Ward. And then Iron Man is just a classic. I even like, you know, like Fairies Wear Boots. I mean, I like the album as a but yeah, I've got to go with Black Sabbath. Like there was no thought in terms of thinking about Lynyrd Skynyrd. It was Black Sabbath from the get-go. I can't do Skynyrd.
All right. Well, Skynyrd has the upset though. I mean, the number 11 overtaking the number 6 seed here with Lynyrd Skynyrd by a score 3-2. So excellent. I like seeing this kind of stuff. Good conversations there. Let's move on to the 7-10 matchup with featuring what I feel is the best album by The Doors. I may be in a minority there, holding on to a 7 seed. So Jim gets to match his psychedelic wits with Patti Smith and her proto-punk art rock masterpiece, Horses, as it holds on to the number 10 spot. Sam, you're going to get the first say on this one, my friend.
And I'm probably a bad one to have the first spot on this because I am not a fan of either album. I'll say that from the get-go. But I mean, again, I understand the significance. I understand, you know, the Jim Morrison love and adoration. I understand the Patti Smith with the early punk and, you know, singing, you know, Bruce Springsteen, and I get it. I get it all the way around. It's just, it comes down to my taste. And if I'm, you know, looking at the two and which one do I want to take a big bite out of, you know, that I would cringe less, it's going to be The Doors. Just again, I don't mind the song "LA Woman." I don't mind like "Love Her Madly." "Riders on the Storm." It's like, yeah, I don't really get its appeal. And I'm not a Doors guy. People are going to shun me in the comments, but I'm more so a Doors guy than a Patti Smith guy. So I've got to go with that one for this one. So right. I've got to be true to myself.
That's it.
All right. Yeah. I get the next vote here. I'm gonna, you know, I love the LA Woman album way too much. I do own the Horses album, and I have played it several times. I got to tell you, you really got to find a certain mood to listen to that album because her voice can just be a total cringe if you're not in that right space of mind to listen to her go on. If people are annoyed by Tom York's voice from Radiohead, they seriously don't want to listen to Patti Smith for very long. So I'm going to go with LA Woman here as well. So that's 2 for The Doors. Doc, what do you think?
I guess I've never been in the right frame of mind because I cannot take her, man. I'm sorry. I'm not going to sugarcoat this at all. I mean, overrated is probably too nice a word in some senses, man. So I'll just let it ride. This was a no-brainer.
Okay.
I should have heeded parents' words and not said anything nice and not say anything at all. But whatever the case, it's LA Woman, man. This is a no-brainer for me.
All right, Randy, what do you think, buddy?
I guess I'm one of the few maybe that do like Patti Smith. And Velvet Underground's John Cale produced this album. I guess she actually does Van Morrison's Gloria, although she had some extra stuff to it.
Yeah.
But it's hard to go against LA Woman. That's when I'm going to pick The Doors. They were a little more bluesy on this album, and it's a shame Jim Morrison died because it would be interesting to see where they went from there.
Right.
So, yeah, I'm LA Woman.
What do you think, Rich? We're going to round it out.
I think it's obvious. I have no time for Patti Smith. How she got in this tournament, I'll never know. But she stumbled in. She got like a play-in game, and somehow they sprung the upset. But anyway, The Doors, like the hits, "Love Her Madly" and what's the other one on here that I love? The LA Woman tune, but Riders on the Storm. I know Sam is not a vibey kind of guy with that. So that's my favorite Doors song. So I have to go with it. I just love the tinkling piano with the raindrops and the dark subject matter, and it works. It's a great closer. And this is the sixth and last album of the Doors with Morrison as lead vocalist. So I think it's a worthy win here for that album.
All right.
So a clean sweep. Patti, see you later, baby.
See you, Patti. She was a play-in game from the Patriot League anyway. All right, so let's finish out the West, guys. We have the beautifully constructed recording from start to finish. I got Van Morrison's Moondance gliding up against one of the most influential artists for the early alternative scene and a band that spawned the godfather of ambient music. I'm speaking about the self-titled debut from Roxy Music, who is securing the number 15 spot. Rich, you now get the first word for the 215 matchup.
Well, it's easy for me. I'm a Van Morrison fan, not to the degree of Sam and Randy, but it's undeniable that this is popularity-wise his best album. All 10 songs work for me, and the way they're set up on the album. I mean, all the way through. And it's Stone Me. I'm not going to name them all, but Crazy Love's great. Into the Mystic, unbelievable song. Caravan, made famous in the last waltz by Van, dancing all over that stage and giving that little extra shot. So I'm going to go with Moondance and a walk away. Sorry, Roxy Music. Never been my vibe. I know it has a lot of fans, but I'm not one of them.
Okay. Sam?
Well, I could sing the praises of Roxy Music, but I won't. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go with Van. I mean, that's a given if you know anything about me.
Right.
Again, killer album. I mean, every song, even the deep cuts for me. I love the songs like "Come Running." I love "Everyone." I love "A New Day." It's all fantastic to me. And again, I'm thinking that we'll probably talk about this another week, so I'll hold off on talking too long about it. But yeah,
Okay.
Moondance, no brainer.
Okay. Up on me now. So at the third, I mean, I like that Roxy Music a lot. I do own several of their albums. I think I got Avalon and Country Life, and I definitely have this one. And I really do like the sound of it. Brian Ferry's voice certainly is an acquired taste. And Brian Eno, of course, has gone on to be like the master of ambient music, doing a lot of production work, things like that, particularly on Joshua Tree later on. But we have to do it on the merits of this album versus the other album. Van Morrison's Moondance is just absolutely beautiful. I cannot vote against it. So it's Van Morrison. Doc?
Very similar to yours, Brian. It's listen, I like Roxy Music. I think I have some pretty good stuff. This album's a pretty good debut too, man. I think Remake and Remodel is a great opening song for these guys. You get to hear it, but you're right. It's an acquired, experimental kind of sound, experimental kind of taste in a lot of senses, and sometimes you show up against the wrong one in the wrong bracket at the wrong time, man. You got movement. This is, I listen. I gave this one a little bit more of a life than I gave Patti. Okay, so what I'll say, but not much.
Right. All right, Randy, what do you got here for the?
Randy, tell us about Roxy Music.
Yeah,
well, I do love Roxy Music, and actually, it's a great debut. A lot of Roxy Music people, this is their favorite album.
Yeah,
mine's Avalon, but
Avalon.
I do love Virginia Plain, Remake, Remodel, like Doc mentioned. But when it's going up against my favorite artist of all time, it's like a 116 matchup. So I'm going to pick Moondance with one of the most perfect songs ever, and Into the Mystic.
excellent.
Absolutely.
All right, that's wrapped up the West there, guys.
Can I just say one thing, Brian?
Sure.
Out of the 8 matchups we had so far, 4 of them were sweeps.
Wow,
Pretty good.
wow.
So they made the 4 obviously moving on have made their statement. There were a couple of close battles, but
Right.
interesting so far.
Nice. Any other last thoughts before we move on down, guys, to the Midwest? Ready to get this crack?
Let's
Okay,
get
see you,
it.
Patti Smith. Yeah.
All right, let's go onward to the Midwest Division. We got the number 1 seed here, and it's going to be the 4th overall seed. and it's by The Who, and this absolute rock classic, truly a great arena rock staple. Who's Next? It's going to be going up against a very tour-heavy fan favorite, obviously, in the Grateful Dead and their juggernaut of jam rock album, the 16th seeded American Beauty. Randy, you get first word here, buddy.
Well, like I said, my favorite artist is Van Morrison. My favorite band is The Who. So this was like no contest for me. This was a 116. Right. Even though I do like, and I do have American Beauty, I do like Ripple, Friend of the Devil, Truckin', but Who's Next has, to me, the best opening and closing song on any rock album. So I'm going Who's Next.
Rich?
Same here. The opener and closer and everything in between is just out of this world. It's the Who's best album for me and what I like. I love American Beauty. It's an album I own too, but going up against Who's Next, that's a bad draw. So I'm going to go with Who's Next. Easy.
All right. Sam?
This was actually difficult for me. Again, Who's Next? I mean, it is the best Who album. It's not my favorite, but it's the best.
Would it help if I told you Patti Smith is not in Grateful Dead?
Oh, well, I mean, okay, that's Jerry Garcia. Yeah. No, I mean, I love American Beauty. It's the first album that I heard by the Dead. It's even weird. It's got the opener, Box of Rain, with Phil Lesh on the vocals. It has Ripple. Sugar Magnolia is fantastic with that great Sunshine Daydream coda at the end. Candyman is kind of weird, but Broke Down Palace is a beautiful song. But when comparing the two, I had to go with The Who just because Pete Townsend, I love his stuff. I love, Bargain. I love Going Mobile. I love, Bob O'Reilly, who won't get fooled again. It's all great, minus My Wife. That one, that kind of, but everything else is okay.
Wow.
John
Entwistle's best song, man.
Yeah, really. Yeah.
I gotta agree with everything you guys said. The Who's Next is just way too good. The album's just way too good. I mean, it's just start to finish. It was the album, like I told Doc, that made Keith Moon move way up into my top 5 drummers of all time. And when I listened to it with headphones on, it's just too great. Who's Next it deserves a #1 seed, deserves to move on easily. So, Doc.
Yeah, it's Who's Next, man. This is I'm in Randy's neighborhood as far as where I kind of rank the Who kind of thing. So this is top tier stuff for me, man. This is the ultimate rock and roll album, man. There's not a bad track on there, including My Wife, man, if you want the truth. So this is easy all the way through. And yeah, I got a feeling we could be saying this album for a while. That's my gut feeling.
Okay. All right. So that easily 5-0 there for the Who. We're going to slide down the bracket now with a tough matchup between two classics. It should be 8 and 9. Sitting at the 8th seed, I've got the rock folk driven Deja Vu, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, and they will be doing battle with the harmonic sounds of Electric Light Orchestra and one of their crown jewel albums, New World Record. Doc, you now get the first word here, my friend.
Wow.
Yeah, this is tough, man. Frig. How come I get the crap ones, man? I don't know. I don't know. So you got Deja Vu coming out, CSNY putting out this pretty much everything. The harmonies on this album to start with, and then it goes from there. Is maybe the right way to say it? Neil's cooking pretty good here, and at this time because he's got some stuff going on. This is an awesome album, man. Deja Vu is fantastic. I just keep going back to the sound that they actually had between the four of them here as they put this together. The Woodstock and everything else that goes on here. New World Record, man, from ELO's quite the little masterpiece in its own right. So, Telephone Line. I got a lot of respect for Jeff Lynne, man. I really do. Outside his Beatle mania, everything else that he's got with him, this guy's a talent, man. Do you, Living Thing and Telephone Line and Tightrope. I really struggled with this one, man. And I think I know which way it's going to go throughout the whole case. I'm going to give some ELO some love here, man, and I'm going there.
Okay. Randy?
Well, ELO's New World Record has a lot of hits on there, a lot of, catchy tunes. But I think I'm going to have to go Deja Vu. The they were riding an artistic high, all the people in this group, all the people in here, because right after this, they all did maybe their best solo albums.
Solo.
But with Woodstock, Helpless, Teach Your Children Well, Almost Cut My Hair, I love that song. I'm gonna have to go with Deja Vu.
Okay. Rich, what do you think?
This is a killer matchup. This is the hardest one we've done so far for me because I love both albums a lot. But I have to go with Deja Vu. It kills me to let ELO go here, but I have to be fair. Deja Vu is a masterpiece in its own right. I mean, 4 songwriters, each contributing, singing, playing, harmonizing. It came along at exactly the right time. Post Woodstock, I guess, and Carry On. I love that. Teach Your Children, Almost Cut My Hair. Helpless, Neil Young's contribution.
Mhm.
Woodstock, Our House, 4 and 20. Everything on here is great. I hate dissing Jeff Lynne. I'm not going to diss him, but he just got edged out like 51-49 in this battle for me.
Okay.
Tough one.
Deja Vu is up 2-1. Sam?
My favorite ELO song is Telephone Line by landslide. Jeff Lynne is on the top of my list to see live out of those classic rock guys that are still out there. I have seen Crosby, Stills and Nash. I got to see them in 2014, a couple of years before they broke up, I think in 16 or 17. And thankfully, I got to see Crosby live a couple of times. I've seen Graham Nash solo by himself. Jeff is still up there. I mean, to hear songs like Telephone Line, Do Ya, Living Thing, Tightrope, and that's just one album.
Yeah.
And I even like So Fine. Like, I love that song too.
Oh, yeah.
Great tune. And like Rich, this was tough. This was like, you're putting me up against the wall and saying, you got to pick one. And track by track, I have to go with Deja Vu.
Okay.
When I saw them, they opened up with Carry On, which was a killer opener. Teach Your Children, their biggest song again, but I love Helpless. That's my favorite, probably my favorite Neil Young song. Again, you saw it in The Last Waltz. Our House, actually one of my least favorites on here, and I think Rich and I did this album ranking, is Almost Cut My Hair, because I'm not a big Crosby guy. But I do like this album quite a bit. So I have to go with the number 8 seed here, the Deja Vu.
I guess this is a really tough matchup. I guess I'm going to, even though it's a losing battle, I'm going to stick with what I feel. And I like electric light orchestra. I think the mixture of the strings and this orchestral type of feel and the harmonies that are involved and how well Lynn produced this album, I just think it's just way too good. But that's my personal opinion. I had to go with my gut on that. I do love Deja Vu as well.
Yeah.
4 and 20 is one of my favorite songs by them. But I'm gonna stick with my gut. I even though it's a losing vote, I went with Electric Orchestra. So the final would be 3-2 for Deja Vu. So, all right, we're gonna move on to the 4 versus number 13. Keeping with this folk rock theme, I got us Neil Young on the solo side with his robustly strong album Harvest, and Neil has to clash with the vocally beautiful album Just As I Am by the iconic Bill Withers, who is holding on to that 13 spot. I get to vote first here. As much as I love that Just As I Am album, guys, which I do, I love every track on there. Harvest is just too good. As much as I'm really mad at Neil for not being on Spotify and other streaming things, I do hold a grudge against him. I'm not going to hold a grudge against his music because this album's top notch. So Harvest for me has got my vote. Doc?
I was going to start off. I was going to say, I know. Yeah, it's a smooth album, man. Don't get me wrong. It really is a smooth album. Yeah, it's up against Harvest, man. It's I'm sure we might hear Harvest as we move along anyway. So as Sam might have said, I'll keep some of my notes for later on. But I got Old Man on there too, man. I just love that too. So it's Harvest for me, man.
Okay, Randy.
Even though I love Bill Withers and Ain't No Sunshine's one of my favorite songs, he also does good one of Fred Neil's Everybody's Talking.
Mm-hmm.
And Let It Be, that's by some other group I can't remember. but I've got to go with Harvest. Neil's looked like he's playing a couple groups here. He's getting going to go forward in the two different brackets here, but yeah, I got to go with Neil. Harvest is just a classic. Too many great tunes on that one.
Okay. What about you, Rich?
Yeah, that's where I'm going to. I can't ignore it going up against Bill. There's probably 45 albums on here that would beat Harvest in a 1-to-1, but Just As I Am is not one of them. So I love The Needle and the Damage Done, of course, and Old Man is classic, and of course the big hit Heart of Gold. You got Linda Ronstadt and James Taylor in background vocals. So right in my wheelhouse. I'm going Harvest.
Okay, Sam, are you going to round us out here, buddy?
Yeah, I am. I mean, Needle and the Damage Done. That's in the contention for a favorite Neil Young song. I would say that, Helpless, and Harvest Moon for me. That's like 1, 2, 3 for Neil. And the order switches. It's so short, but it's so powerful. Old Man, which is always jarring to hear him sing that live. Now it's kind of one of those full circle songs, which I love. I like the song Harvest. You know, There's a World is a good song. So yeah, I mean, there was just no denying that Neil was going to get this one.
Okay. Well, don't go very far, Sam, because we're going to jump right into the 5-12 matchup, rounding out this top half of the Midwest bracket. I got the Lo-Fi Blues Classic Exile on Main Street by the Rolling Stones. They hold on to that number 5 spot. And call me crazy, but I'm going to put it up against Elton John's Madman Across the Water, whose piano-driven classic holds the number 12 seed. And I feel like that number 12 seed is like Florida State. I mean, that FSU international team or whatever, Florida international team. It feels like to me. But let's go through the motions. Sam, you get the first crack here.
This is a big one. This is really big. I mean, on one hand, you've got a double album with songs like Tumbling Dice, Rip This Joint, which is a ripper of a tune. Happy, the great Keith Richards song. I love that song. It's just fantastic. And then on the other side, you have this, is it 8 tracks, 9 tracks on Madman Across the Water?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously you have boom, Tiny Dancer, boom, Leave On. I mean, what a kickstart to an album. And then you have the deeper cuts like, Madman Across the Water, Indian Sunset, Rotten Peaches, Holiday Inn. Comparing the two, I know a lot of people put both as potential masterpieces for both bands. But for me, who I am, I have to go with the number 12, Madman Across the Water. It was an absolute no-brainer for me to pick that one. I love every single song on that album. Our friend Jeff Witcher just did a great deep dive on it. I'll give him a quick plug if you haven't seen it. It's fantastic. But I mean, Holiday Inn is great. All the Nasties is great. Razor Face is fantastic. I love all of those tracks. Elton to the top of his game. The band is fantastic on it. Bernie's writing is just perfect. It's my favorite Elton John album by a mile. So I have to go with Madman, number 12.
I'm joining you, Sam. Even though I put this together, it was based on multiple charts and where they rank things and overall stuff. And so obviously Stones got so much acclaim that this one was ranked higher. But my personal preference, I'm going to go with Madman here as well. I think the title track is just is too good. The overall album, to me, it's just so much more accessible, so much more mood setting when you listen to it. You don't have to be in a specific mindset to do it. Just great composition. I'm going to go with the number 12 seed as well. Madman's got my vote. Doc?
And just like that, we got 3 in a row. So, yeah, I'm going Madman as well. Exile's awesome. And I think, Sam, you touched on a few of the highlights there, the tumbling and Happy and rocks off. Exile's got some really high points inside a double album here. It's a lot of tunes, man. It's really bluesy. It's a lot of tunes. It's it's a great album from the Stones, is what I'll say. But Madman is, to your point, Sam, that's kind of more the masterpiece neighborhood kind of thing for me. On the writing side, I think you're touching on the key points. Bernie's doing his thing and Elton's doing his thing at the right time. Here we are in the 70s, and these guys are just pumping it. You're right. You started those first 4 tracks, man. It's Tiny Dancer, Sleep On, it's Razors, and I think it's Madman. So that's, I'm halfway through the record, man. I got a big grin on my face. So this is it's Madman for me, man.
Okay. Randy?
Well, geez. Madman Across the Water is my favorite Elton John album. But for me, Exile on Main Street is one of the 5 best albums of all time. It would be #1 seed in a couple of these other brackets. And I don't understand here. Tumbling Dice, Let It Loose, got Nicky Hopkins playing piano, Keith Richards' best song maybe, Happy, Loving Cup, Shine a Light. Yeah, I'm picking the Rolling Stones, but I guess I lose.
All right.
Listen, can I just say one thing before we go to Rich?
Yeah.
Now you know how I felt about Highway to Hell. That's all I'm saying.
Same thing.
That's
And
like,
we're all going to feel that way at one point when it's one of our favorites.
Exactly.
Counts. That's what's going to happen.
Rich, do you want to like give Randy some backup here, or are you going to go with your gut?
No, I respect Randy's opinion on the Stones, of course. It's got a lot of fantastic songs on it, but I can't go against Elton. This is peak Elton right here. Bernie Taupin's writing is unbelievable. And that opening, like Sam mentioned, Tiny Dancer and Levon's enough right there. But the title track, I like Indian Summer and Holiday Inn too on side 2. Both of them, big deep cuts for me. So
yep.
I'm going to give it to Elton, although it's not fair. Maybe it's a bad seed matchup here for Exile, but it is what it is, and it's all for fun. So let's see what happens.
All right. So let's move on to the 314 matchup. At the bottom half of this bracket, we're going to pit the rock classic Hotel California, which was just featured on Rich's channel, along with Sam St. John, where they ranked the tracks from the album. Be sure to check that out. It's great. It's really it's a stone wall that you're running up against with that at the #3 seed. But they got to take flight against Nick Drake's Pink Moon, a sullenly stellar final album by him, who has appeared on the horizon here at number 14 seed. Rich, you get the first word on this one, my friend.
Well, this is the chance for everybody to stick it to me a little bit because, I'm going with Hotel California. So all you Pink Moon fans can line up. I just think, like I said on our recent video that Sam and I did, this is peak Eagles. I love the addition of Joe Walsh to the band while Felder's still in there, that dual guitar work. It takes them from more of a acoustic country-ish band, more of a rock pop band hitting on all cylinders. Every song on it is amazing, including the one I put last. But easy. I'm going to go Hotel and see how they do if they move on.
Okay. Sam?
Yeah, I was on a channel with some guy talking about some group named after a bird. And I mean, good grief. It's a stone cold masterpiece, Hotel California. I mean, all the tracks on it, again, Rich and I talked about it on our video. Again, go check that out. There is a reprise, which within the context of the album works great. On Wasted Time, New Kid in Town, great kind of yacht rock, soft pop classic. But for me, I'm going with Pink Moon. It's one of my favorite albums. It's in my top 100 favorite albums of all time. Don't know where it would be right now in my life, but it opens up with Pink Moon, beautiful track. Place to Be is beautiful. Free Ride is a great tune. Parasite is great. And then it's got this great song of hope, which you don't get a lot with Nick Drake, who again is very depressed almost. I think he's struggled with depression. Not much is known about him. But that last song, From the Morning, just a beautiful track. The guitar playing is fantastic. He's one of the kings of the alternate tunings. He was on Island Records that had a lot of kind of those like misfit types like Leon Redbone, Tom Waits. They're all on Island Records. But I had to go with my gut. Pink Moon is one that is seasonal for me. I listen to it in the autumn, in the fall, all the time. And if I've got Pink Moon and Hotel California on the shelf, I'm gonna pull Pink Moon out before I do Hotel California. It flows so well for me. And I know I'm probably the only one that's gonna pick it, but I have Pink Moon one easily for me.
Okay. I'm next on deck here, so I agree with everything that Sam said. I really do love that album. I've listened. Obviously, only had 3 albums of the 3. This is really the strongest. But Hotel California is just, I think, just way too strong. There's just too many good tracks on it, too consistent. I'm gonna stick with the stellar choice of Hotel California, even though it's not my favorite Eagles album. I put this one on here instead of the Long Run, which was my favorite album, but Long Run definitely doesn't compare to this one at all. So I'm taking the Eagles. Doc?
Maybe I'll just be nice and I'll just take the Eagles here. So I don't want to say Nixon, Patty's neighborhood from our previous he's in some senses to me. I just think it's yeah, to me this is a no-brainer to me. So this is rock classic, Southern rock classic out of the 70s here. I have a lot of love for the Eagles, man. Even though not everybody knows how to do a list of the songs on the album. That's a different story for a different day, I guess. But,
nice shot.
But be it whatever it is, the album itself is a masterpiece. Hotel California, and that's where I'm putting my vote on this one, man.
All right, Randy, what do you think?
Well, I do have Pink Moon, and I do love the title track and Parasite, a couple other songs on there, but I'm going with not the dude's favorite band, the Eagles, and Hotel California.
Okay. Sounds good. We'll slide on down. Slide down here to that number 6-11 matchup, guys. We got guitar mastersmith Eric Clapton, his album Slow Hand, sitting in a very strong number 6. He has to pull up the chair against a critically and commercially successful offering from Supertramp. They have the 11 seed with the record Breakfast in America. Randy, you get the first vote on this one.
Let's maybe not be a little too fair because I'm not a huge Supertramp fan. Now, if this was a crime, what is it?
Crime of the century.
Crime of the century, it might be a little closer for me. But I'm going to have to go with Eric Clapton, love Wonderful Tonight, Cocaine, Next Time You See Her, Low Down Sally. I love his cover of the John Martin tune, May You Never.
Right.
Yeah, Slow Hand, Eric Clapton.
Good. Okay. Rich?
Yeah, it's close. I could go either way on this one, but there's something about Breakfast in America I've always liked from the first day I heard it. So I'm going to take that in a narrow victory. 4 hit singles off this album, if that means anything. The Logical Song, Breakfast in America, Goodbye Stranger, and Take the Long Way Home. 1979, I mean, that was big on the radio, and I remember that well. I like the Slow Hand album. I'm not going to diss it. I like Clapton, but this time out, going with Supertramp.
Okay. Sam, what about you?
Yeah, two artists that I'm kind of in the middle of things with anyway. I'm not a huge Clapton guy. I'm not a huge Supertramp guy. Supertramp was one of the earlier greatest hits albums that I bought when I was a teen, really getting into music, like investigating music outside of the radio. And Goodbye Stranger always stuck with me. I love that song, still do.
Mm-hmm.
I love the Logical Song. I like the song Breakfast in America. And Clapton, again, I'm hit or miss with Clapton. Politics aside, I've always been hit or miss with Clapton. But in this case, I have to go with Mr. Slowhand himself. I do love that version of the John Martin tune. That's one of my favorite songs ever. Lay Down Sally, he just plays it so smooth. Cocaine is killer. So yeah, I've got to go with Slowhand between the two.
Okay. For me, I'm gonna take this is really close because I do Wonderful Tonight's my favorite song by Clapton, and it's on Slow Hand. But like Rich, there's just something about Breakfast in America that just resonates really well with me. Those hit singles are they're just so catchy, so well produced. That I love, of course, as a graphic designer, I just love the album cover. It's just so interesting. Yeah. When you think about the overall concept of the album, just fit everything that was going on there. So I'm going to take Breakfast in America. So that's going to give us a vote of 2-2. So Doc,
Wow.
You get some power here, my man.
What was that? Hey, that's scrapping it out. So, and actually, a very tough choice, man. You guys have both touched on it. Breakfast in America. I'm a Supertramp guy. I've seen Supertramp. I'm a Clapton guy. I've seen Clapton. So I like them both very, very much, actually. So like you guys have touched on, Breakfast in America. It's got the power hits, man. You know, like Goodbye Stranger, Logical Song, Breakfast in America, the title track. You know, Long Way Home. Child of Vision is fantastic tune off that album, man. Just the Nervous Wreck is fantastic. And the album's awesome. Davies and Hodgson, you know, didn't see eye to eye in a lot of that fronts, but that's a different story. And Clapton coming in with Slow Hand, you know, and you open up with Cocaine, and you know, Wonderful Tonight, you follow that up with Lay Down Sally. It's a great opening trio of tracks on this album. But there's something about that Breakfast in America album, but it just it's going to be a lot harder than that. Slow Hand to take down that one for me. So I got Breakfast in America taking this one.
All right, 3-2.
That's an upset.
For the 11 seed. Supertramp's going to move on. And we're going to move on down to the 7-10 matchup. Doc, you're going to get an opportunity to speak first here, I believe. Down to the last two, we have the iconic concept / soundtrack album from Pink Floyd, The Wall, holding on to that number 7 seed. And it tries to scale heights to meet the number 10 seed title debut from Van Halen. So, Doc, you get the first word here, and this might be another hard matchup for you.
You don't say. I'm a big Pink Floyd guy, and I'm a big Van Halen dude. You know, there's a couple that I've seen as well. So this is hard as hell. You want the truth, man. That opening, this is Van Halen's debut, right? This is, you know, this is a smoking album, man. You know, the second you got Running with the Devil, and you break into Eruption, like you've never heard a guitar like this in your life, for crying out loud, let alone, you know, the cover, You Really Got Me, Ain't Talking About Love, Jamie's Crying. Smoking album, man. And then you got The Wall, a double album concept from Roger, I guess, at the time. But this is Pink Floyd. In between, you know, it's Animals, you know, the Dark Side, Animals, and here comes The Wall. The Wall is one of my favorite albums, man. And I love that Van Halen album. But it's not taking out The Wall in my eyes, man. I think this is somewhat of a masterpiece in a lot of senses. As much as it's a double album, I find no filler, and I think there's a couple of my favorite songs of all time, Comfortably Numb on here, man. So I got The Wall.
The Wall. Okay, Randy?
Well, if it would have been the teenage me when that came out, it would probably be The Wall. But as I've gotten older, it just doesn't resonate with me as much anymore. And I'm just going to go for the straight ahead rock and roll of Van Halen. And that's what I'm going to pick.
Okay. One for each now. Rich?
Well, this is impossible, but I'm going to go with The Wall just because it is The Wall and Pink Floyd. I you know, it's one that I would grab first. I like Van Halen's first album. I like several of their albums, and you wouldn't think I would, but I do. I like when what's the face joined the band, Sammy Hagar too. A lot of those albums are underrated. They get crapped on because David Lee left, and you know, whatever. But that we're not talking about that. I'm going to go with The Wall. You got Comfortably Numb on here, and Young Lust, and you know, Another Brick, and it's so on and so forth. It just flows together. So I'm going to go. I'm just going to keep it short and go with The Wall in a tight battle.
Okay. Sam?
Like Rich said, this one was tight. Originally, like when I was first looking at the two, I was like, oh, this is a no-brainer. And then I started looking at, you know, the songs on both albums. And actually, I just listened to The Wall a couple of days ago, the first time in probably half a year or so. And I'm kind of in the camp too, where like I don't think there's really any filler. I even don't mind like the trial. Like I don't mind that. I know it's weird, but it works with like the big chanting, you know, tear down the wall at the end.
Powerful.
It breaks down. And then it, you know, be behind the wall or like beyond the wall, whatever the last song is called. And then like again, like Randy said, teenage me, I probably would have gone with Halen because Eruption was a song. It holds a lot of memories. Some friends of mine and I, that song was part of a game that we played as kids. It was really just a stupid game, but I have a lot of memories with Eruption, and then it flows right into You Really Got Me. I love Ice Cream Man on the second side. Obviously, it's acoustic and bluesy. I love how that song sounds. The first side is pretty much perfect, but I have to go with The Wall, believe it or not. So I'm gonna go with Pink Floyd here.
Wow.
Okay. Well, I mean, I get the final vote here, but it doesn't matter. We've already taken a victory here, but I'm going to concur that I think it's The Wall. Certainly, it's a large album, and it may have a couple things that I might consider filler, but it's got enough of their best hits like Hey You and Young Lust and Comfortably Numb to really compensate for any of that. Certainly, I could go like my whole lifetime, not have to listen to another Brick in the Wall Part 2 again, because it's just completely overplayed when I was a kid. But still, The Wall is the one that's going to move on for me as well. So Pink Floyd's going to move forward. So we're down to the final one here, guys. This is a number 2 versus number 15 coming out of the Midwest. Number 5 seed is going to be Led Zeppelin 4, an album with absolutely no filler, all engaging, and it's going to test itself against the iconic songwriting of Yusuf / Cat Stevens and his well-crafted album Tea for the Tillerman, which is holding on to that 15 seed. I get the first vote here. It feels like a real no-brainer. I don't know whether Led Zeppelin 4 is going to run into much in the way of competition until maybe it hits the Who. I'm not sure yet, but I got Led Zeppelin going forward here, guys. I do like Tea for the Tillerman, but it doesn't stack up well against Led Zeppelin's classic here. So, Doc,
You're right. Tea for the Tillerman, it's a great album, man. It's easily. I think I'm more as I get older. You know the truth. It's really well crafted. There's a lot of great things about that album. You're up against Zeppelin 4, man. I don't know what to tell you. You got to the starting gate. You didn't hear it go. That's kind of what it is, man. This is you got Black Dog, and then when the levee breaks, openers and closers. We talked about it earlier. Another monster here, man. There is no filler on this. Zep 4 is a monster of an album, man. This was easy for me.
okay, Randy.
Well, I'm a big Cat Stevens fan, but Teaser and the Firecat is probably my favorite Cat Stevens album, but even it wouldn't stand a chance against Led Zeppelin 4. It's just like side 1, you got Black Dog, Rock and Roll, Battle of Evermore, and Stairway. I don't know if there's a better side in rock than that, although some people say they even prefer side 2, which shows you how strong an album that is. And so, yeah, I like Cat Stevens, but he didn't stand a chance here.
Okay, Rich.
Yeah, I feel sorry for the Cat because he came up against a monster here, and I like Randy. I like Teaser and the Firecat a hair better, but this is an excellent album. We've got Father and Son and Wild World, and Miles from Nowhere? Is that on there too, or is that something I'm forgetting? Sad Lisa.
Sad Lisa.
Yeah, there's all the songs are good, well crafted, beautifully sung, played, but Led Zeppelin 4 is in a world of its own. You guys mentioned all the songs. The only song I don't care for out of the 8 is Four Sticks. And I know people out there are going to back that song, but I like Going to California, Misty Mountain Hop, and every other song that's been mentioned. Stairway is iconic. 8 minutes of just domination. I love this Led Zeppelin 4. It's going to be tough to beat in our tournament, and Cat had no shot.
Right. Sam, round us out here, buddy.
Well, it's funny because if I were to pick a favorite song from either album, like if I were to combine all the songs, rank them between the two, Father and Son would probably win for me out of everything. I love that song. He did a version when he re-recorded this album a couple of years ago for the 50th, where he recorded it with his younger self, and it's beautiful. If you haven't heard it, but yeah, I mean Zeppelin 4. It's one of those albums too that Rich and I did. And I think we both agreed about Four Sticks at the bottom of the 8 tracks. Obviously, I'm gonna lean toward songs like Going to California. It's fantastic. Rock and Roll, Plant maybe at his best vocally. There's a couple of contenders for that. That's up there in the running. Battle of Evermore, people love it, people hate it. Just really, really wicked lyrics, and yeah, I mean, sorry to Mr. Stevens, wherever you are. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I mean, so basically what we got there is the 1 and 2 seeds all won 5-0.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and the 3 seeds won 4-1, and then 1-1 5-0, and then the 4 seed. We had a close 4 seed with the Steely Dan one. The other 4 seed was a runaway for Neil Young. So the ones at the top there did feel like they were at the top, with only like 3 votes kind of going that way. And of among the 16 that would have been, among the 8 of those top 8 albums and stuff. So any last minute thoughts here, guys, before we move on? I'll probably split this video up anyway, try to divide it up into 2 parts and maybe release it as 2, so it won't be so quite as long. But any last minute thoughts?
Nick Drake lives. I'll just say that.
Him and Patti are having
Exile on Main Street.
Yeah, that's maybe that's the biggest upset of the night, is Elton John beating him 4-1. Wasn't even close.
Hey,
Doc, any last minute things?
I have all your names written down, and everyone's got marks beside them, so we'll see who wins at the end.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank everybody for watching. I hope this is just, you guys enjoy. It's just a fun thing that we're kind of doing. Look for we're going to be releasing the video soon. We'll also be recording the ones for the East and South bracket. So look for that as well, because we're only halfway here. That's how long these things take to vote on these. Please make sure that you check out the other channels here. Randy Nelson, I'll be putting a link down below, and Sam St. John as well for his channel. Rich, who's back up and running on his channel, I'm going to put a link for his as well. And like I said, Doc at OnlyFans, I hope it's up and running, man. It was at $2. Is it a tier for $2, $5?
You have no idea what you get for $2, man.
Yeah, you charge $10 to put your clothes back on, right? That's the deal. Okay, I just want to make sure before we do that. But please make sure you like, sub, and comment, and tell us who you would have voted for, or tell us where you would have ranked people, maybe even. I'm kind of enjoying how we did this thing, and I'd be curious to see what everybody else thinks. So thanks for everybody for joining us. We'll catch you next week. All right, take care. Bye-bye.